Hey guys, Shane Worthner here from Athletistry PT. It's a wonderful Friday evening, and I just wanted to come on tonight and do a little bit of a different thing than what I've been doing lately, with the intention to support as many people as possible tonight. Claire, thanks for joining in. I have had this idea that it just popped into my head this morning, actually, when I was working with some dancers. Sean, great to have you on here. And I was thinking to myself, well, yesterday I was actually going to do a webinar last night all about personalized health and fitness and all this stuff. And I was working on it. I was thinking it needs to go deeper. Something needs to go deeper than just talking about health and wellness and fitness and nutrition. There's something that's going on in society right now that is deeper than that, and people are struggling a lot to figure out how to move forward, how to change, how to become a better version of themselves. Right, Richard, thanks for coming on. So what I had this idea this morning, I'll dive into the story a little bit more because I want to make this a longer video tonight. But I had this idea to come on tonight and talk about the mindset and the things that happen in our subconscious and our minds that stop us and that hold us back. And I thought, what better name to give it than to do it on a Friday and call it Friday Feels. So I'm going to start this weekly thing where every Friday night I'm going to come on and I'm going to talk about mindset and how powerful mindset is, how powerful mindset can be for change, and how when you've got the wrong mindset and things that are stopping you, how difficult that can be and how challenging that can be to overcome. So this morning, Stacy, thanks for joining in. Guys, if you're on here and you've just come on and you're wanting to join in, comment, write, share, like, start watch parties. This is Friday Feels, all right? So I'm going to be talking all about fear tonight. Jacqueline, thanks for coming on. When we're talking about fear, it's going to be an extended live video. I'm not just going to take 5 minutes. I want to actually make this a conversation, right? So the more that you guys interact, the better this is going to be. The more that I can come back and say, hey, what have you been feeling? What have you been experiencing? How can I help you? So it's really kind of almost like a coaching session in the sense that I want to coach you guys, but I'm doing it from a distance. So take this opportunity to use me, ask me questions, and we'll get into it. So this morning, so every Friday I actually go and I work with some dancers at a dance studio down in Springfield, and I've been doing this for quite a while now. And every week I'll go down there, and it'll be a different group of girls. Well, same girls, but not always the same ones there. So like these three girls, they cycle through, and it's not always the same ones every week. Some are injured, some are there, and then every week it's just kind of been this thing where I felt like there's something going on. And I felt like there's something that is happening in these girls' lives that's holding them back from being the best that they can be. And I got down there and we spent about, I would say, normally we spend an hour, like 45 minutes on fitness, and then we do about an hour and a half of coaching in their dances. And I thought, you know what, today we need to dive a bit deeper. We need to have a discussion about what's going on. And so I did, and we dove quite deep. And for about an hour and a half, we had a coaching session where I went deep with these girls as to what they needed to figure out in their lives, how to move forward with their dance careers, how to overcome personal issues, how to handle fears, how to deal with doubts and self-sabotage and all that stuff. And what it made me realize, and it's something that I've seen this week and within the past couple of weeks actually, is that a lot of people are struggling with fears in their lives, and the fear of change, the fear of failure, and sometimes we don't even know what we're afraid of. Like how many of you guys have ever been in a situation where you just all of a sudden are struck with not being able to change, not being able to do something, almost like paralyzed in fear, and you don't even know why. You don't even know where it's coming from. You don't even know what's happening to stop you. So what I've noticed and what I've recognized, because I work a lot with people who are trying to change their lives massively, who we look at weight loss and we say, okay, well, a lot of people want to lose weight because they're overweight, and as a result of that, they're unhealthy. And we look at it from a health perspective. We say, okay, well, in order for their body to not have to handle, heart disease or diabetes or fatty liver or other things that come along with being overweight, they need to lose weight to be more physically healthy. But we don't look at the mental health side of it and say, why are they overweight? Is it because of something else that's going on? Is it because of their attachment to food? Is it because they've suffered some sort of post-traumatic stress? Are they consistently being confronted with something that is overwhelming to them, and they feel like they need to have some sort of protection, and food is their protection? Is their family struggling, and so as a result they're eating in order to protect their family because food is actually making them feel safe and therefore able to provide? And we don't necessarily take the time to go past the superficial because it's difficult. It's hard to open up about what's happening in our lives. It's hard to open up about our past, and it's hard to open up about the challenges that we face. But it's those challenges that, if we utilize them correctly, will actually help us to change. So it's kind of this cyclical, strange thing that happens. And I was watching a TV show the other day, and they were talking about an Ouroboros. I don't know if you guys know what an Ouroboros is. An Ouroboros is that pictographic image of a snake eating its own tail. And so if you look at it that way, and you look at this kind of cycle of life, right? This cycle that people get themselves into. They'll do something, it won't have a good result, they'll fail at it. They'll develop a fear of that failure. And then every time they go back to try to do it again, they'll create more fear, they'll create more failure, they'll do something to fix the fear that isn't necessarily healthy, that makes them feel good. They'll go back again, they'll try to change because the behavior isn't good. They'll fail again, they'll develop more fear. And it's just this cycle that keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And people, excuses come up about it, right? People struggle and they'll say, okay, well, I just want to be realistic. This is one that popped up in my awareness a couple of days ago when I was reading Awaken the Giant Within, Awaken the Greatness Within. So, it's being realistic. Are we actually being realistic, or are we excusing ourselves for our failures? Are we saying, you know what, I don't want to take that on, it's too challenging, I'm afraid of the outcome, I'm afraid of the change, and let's just be realistic, the last time I did this I failed, and so if I do it again I'm probably going to fail again, I'm just not going to do it. And there's a negative impact of that, right? There's a negative impact in the sense that when you don't take something on, take on a new challenge, take on a new process, because of fear of previous failures, number one, you're not allowing yourself to grow. And number two, you're stopping yourself because you're getting stuck in that past ideology. You're getting stuck in who you were when you failed the first time. And you're not looking at the failure and saying, how can I improve on that? What lessons do I have to learn? What things can I do out of that failure? And how can I make that failure improve me, improve my life, improve my situation? So, at some point in this conversation, I want to open this up to you guys. I don't know how many people are still watching, but I want to open it up to you guys and ask you what your fears are. What are you scared of? What are you concerned with? What has stopped you in the past? And I always come back to this because it's something that really stuck with me when I was going through my coaching training about willpower and the subconscious and the conscious brain. So our brains are we're kind of hardwired to act with the intention to be comfortable, with the intention to feel good, right? To survive, to continue survival. And we make choices based on the next 30 seconds, essentially, right? And so when we're making that 30-second choice, everything that we've experienced in the past is kind of being used by our subconscious as a predisposition to making that choice. So, if you've had a bad experience at the gym, if you've had a bad experience eating healthy, if you've had a bad experience doing something that's good for you, when the choice comes around to do those things, the subconscious is going to say, hold on, the last time we did that, we were in danger. And the flight or fight section of the brain is going to kick in and say, you know what, that's not right. Don't do that. It's unsafe. Do the thing that's safe. That's the alternative here. And so when that's happening, and this will affect long-term change, because when that's happening, your conscious and your subconscious brain actually start to battle a little bit. Okay. So you've got this, if you look at it like this, your conscious brain has will. Your conscious brain is the will to change. So it's what allows you to go outside your comfort zone and say, you know what, it's time. I need to lose 10 kilos. I need to be healthier, right? In the meantime, while your conscious brain is saying, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to join the gym, I'm going to work with a personal trainer, I'm going to eat right, and it's going to be different this time, your subconscious brain is going, ah! And it's saying, no, you're not. That's too difficult. The last time we did this, we failed. The last time we did this, we got hurt. The last time we did this, our bodies hurt, and we were hungry, and we were tired, and everything that we need to do for survival was not happening. So you can go and join the gym. You will part of the conscious brain, but my power is going to stop you, and the subconscious is the power. Right. So when you put those two together, right, obviously you get willpower. When the conscious brain and the subconscious brain are aligned and they're put together and they're working well, that's when you get willpower, and that's when change will be effective, because you've created this situation where everything is aligned, and you're going to be able to do the things that are uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable, right? And it's going to allow you to push forward. It's going to allow you to push past it, because the subconscious brain is saying, you know what, it's all right. We're able to overcome it this time. We're able to move past it this time. We're able to take on the new challenges and move forward. So, here, Stacy, practicing new things makes fears go away. Yes, that will happen. That will happen quite consistently. Practicing new things will make your fears go away. The difficulty comes is when practicing the new things doesn't go well. So, it'll happen for a while that you're doing really well, and you're moving forward, you're progressing, and then suddenly you'll plateau, or you won't progress, or you'll go backwards potentially, or you'll fail at something. And it's when you fail that the brain says, hold on a second, what did we do there? Why didn't that work? Why am I failing now? Right? And it's in those situations that fear develops. And when fears develop, depending on the strength of the fear, it can either go from something, as little as, oh, that's uncomfortable, to full-blown phobias. Phobias of talking to people, phobias of going to the gym, panic attacks, anxiety, and it can become quite a debilitating process. And so, let's bring it back to obesity and people who are heavily overweight, who struggle to make those changes in their lives. I would be surprised to find someone who is obese, who is not struggling with some sort of fear of change, fear of what that will mean to their relationships, fear of how people will treat them if they're skinny in relation to how they are when they're overweight, fear of losing people in their life because of the change in their body, fear of what they'll have to go through on a daily basis in order to maintain that process, right? And that's where we start to get in and starting to look at yo-yoing, people who will lose weight and then put it back on, lose weight and then put it back on. Yes, there's that thing of, oh, I've lost the weight, now I can go back to what I was doing. But there's also a subconscious element to that of, I've lost the weight, now I can be comfortable and take myself out of this place of fear that I've been living in order to try and get to this place that I'm now at. And I can move back into not being afraid anymore, right? So the underlying issue, the underlying psychological issue that has caused the obesity or the overweight status to begin with still hasn't been dealt with. And it was actually something that Stacy said to me today that made me want to come and do this extended live video tonight, because she said to me, and I really appreciated her telling me this, is that she really finds it special when I'm able to go past just giving exercise or just giving nutrition advice, to the mindset of it, and to helping to explore for each individual that I'm working with what's going on. You know, I don't actually think that there is any blanket advice that can be given. Like, I can't say, in order to face your fears, this is what you have to do. Like, I don't think that works. I think each person is going to be different. I think each person is going to have an event or multiple events that have caused them to have a deep-rooted fear, or a comfort zone that they're incapable of moving past, or struggles that they have in their day-to-day situation, right? And I guess there are a couple of analogies that I want to give you guys today. So generally, when we're looking at change or taking on something that's uncomfortable, I'll tell you a little bit of a story about one of the girls I was talking with today. She wants to get more work. She wants to take on some more jobs, but she's been doing online job applications and she hasn't been getting any feedback. No one's been coming back and wanting to hire her. And so I said to her, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. Number one, you're going to go home this afternoon and you're going to make phone calls to businesses asking if they're hiring. And you're going to do that until you've got as many appointments as you need, interviews as you need to get a job, to get more than one job, or however much you need in order to hit your goal. And her goal was to get to $500 a week. She wants to be making $500 a week. So we broke that down and I said, look, right now you're making $99 a week. You need to add 4 shifts to your week, right? In order to do that, you need to get a certain amount of work, right? And in order to get that work, you need to talk to a certain amount of people. So what you're going to do, you're going to go home tonight, or this afternoon, you're going to put into your phone right now that at 3 o'clock this afternoon, you're going to start calling businesses, and the name of the alarm was make $500 a week. So she's created this attraction to doing the action. She's created a goal that she wants to achieve out of this, and she's reminding herself of that goal as she goes in to do something that's uncomfortable. Now, the next thing I said to her was, even when that alarm goes off, you're still going to be drawn not to do it. And it's going to be like, you've got these 2 options. One option is to go and sit on the couch and watch Netflix and not do anything about your current situation. And the other one is to get on the phone and start calling people and figuring out how to get work. And the Netflix is going to be like this jumbo jet that's tugging at one side of her. And the jobs and calling people is going to be like a little golf cart. And it's going to be very difficult not to go and do the Netflix, because that's the easy one. That's the comfortable one. The plane is nice and comfortable inside. It's large. You got lots of space. And then you got this little golf cart pulling in the other direction. First of all, it doesn't have a lot of pull. Second of all, it's uncomfortable. It's small, right? But what you have to think about is that the jet plane is not going anywhere special. It's actually taking you, and it's going to dump you in the desert. So you're going to fly up to 38,000 feet, and then the hatch is going to open and you're going to just be dropped out into the desert where it's barren. There's no water, there's no food, there's no one there, right? But the golf cart is taking you to the country club where everyone's playing golf and you've got lots of wealth and you've got lots of success, and it's going to take you where you want to go. And so the point of this analogy was that when we're struggling with things, the comfort is going to be the bigger draw. It's going to be the easier draw. It's going to be the thing that pulls you in the direction that feels good, that supports your current situation, that supports your current choices. The one that's going to support you long-term is not going to be comfortable. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to support who you are right now. But that's because you don't want to be who you are right now. You want to be someone different. You want to change. You're trying to change the root of your person. You're trying to change your convictions. You're trying to change your beliefs in order to be successful. And in order to do that, we have to attach an emotion to that process. And the emotion has to be one of positivity. So when you're going to make a change, when you're going to do something that is uncomfortable, you have to find something positive, some sort of reward, something that's going to draw you in the direction of the positive eventual outcome, because it's going to take time. Change in any situation takes a lot of time, and it's the fear of the time, it's the fear of being able to stick with it, it's the fear of potential failure, and the lack of guarantee that anything will actually good come out of it, that stops a lot of people from ever taking that path. So guys, look, that's really kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight. Those have been my feelings and my observations in working with people lately. I have a lot of fears or myself. I struggle with things too. I'm not some superhuman. I too have failed, and I'll tell you a little bit about that more tomorrow. I can't tell you everything in one video because I wouldn't get you to come back again. And I don't think we can ever fully cover everything at one time. I think things take time to discuss, things take time to talk about and move forward. So I appreciate everyone coming on tonight and watching. I'm going to open it up to you guys. I know that there's a little bit of a delay, but I want to open it up to you guys just before I jump off. If anyone has any questions, things they want to say, write them in the comments and let me know, because here's the chance, right? You've got me. I'm willing to stay on for another 10 minutes or so to talk about this stuff, to support you guys, to help you out. And I think, so much of what happens these days when people go on live videos is they're trying to sell stuff. And I'm guilty of it too. I try and sell stuff all the time. I'm building businesses. I'm trying to help people by building my business. And instead of doing that tonight, I wanted to kind of flip the switch and say, you know what? How can I just support you guys right now? What can I do for you right now? What's your biggest fear? Let's start there. What is your biggest fear? If you had to face it tomorrow, would you be able to? If let's say losing a job is your biggest fear, or being rejected is your biggest fear, or not losing weight is your biggest fear, or maybe dying young is a fear. I know a lot of people are afraid of that, not because of death, but because the potential loneliness and people that they'll leave behind. What are you guys afraid of? That's the power, right? If we can acknowledge our emotions, and this is something that I've been studying for years. I'm a big follower of Paul Ekman, who, if you haven't read any of his books, you should go and read them, because you'll have a whole new appreciation for emotion and the power of emotion and where that comes from. Emotions don't just show up. There's a reason for them. They're like our evolutionary guide so that we can make quick decisions and stay alive. But emotions don't last very long. Emotions last 15, 20, 30 seconds. And then from that point, it's a mood. It's the remnants. It's like, how do I say it? It's like the trash that gets left over after the party. Yeah. The emotion is like the party in your brain, the hormonal party in your brain. And then the mood is what sticks around afterwards. It's the hangover. So if you guys have ever had a situation where you've been in some sort of argument, or you've been sad, or you've been happy, that emotional response is quick. It's like 15, 30 seconds and then it's done. But what's left over afterwards is the remnants of that reaction. So the hormonal remnants, right? And it's one of those things where those remnants can stick around for a couple hours, a couple days, a couple years. They can cause more emotions that leave more remnants, that cause more pain. Marie Claire, afraid of pain. Pain is definitely one of the biggest deterrents, because if you're in pain, you're not living comfortably. You're not living the life that you want to live, right? And it doesn't even have to be emotional pain. It can be physical pain. Although emotional pain is probably going to be more difficult, especially if you've had a career like myself or my wife have had, where you've dealt with a lot of physical pain. The emotional pain on top of that is going to be the harder thing to handle. But I think, and here's a powerful tool for you guys to use. you have to figure out your fears. You have to, and it's a process called fear setting, where you figure out what your biggest fear is, and then you handle it. You handle it right there and then. Like you figure out what that fear is, and you visualize that fear happening, and you look at all potential aspects of it. How many times? Okay, here's one for you. How many times have you guys ever been in an argument and you haven't been able to come up with the words that you wanted to say in the argument, and then you've gone home and like 3-4 hours later you're in the shower, or you're in bed, lying in bed at night before you go to sleep, and the comeback that you wanted when you were in that argument shows up, right? And then you start to think, and then you think and you think and you think, and you start winning the argument in your head. It's like, oh, why couldn't I think of that back then? Why didn't I handle that there? What was going on? And that's that process, right? That's that process of the brain maybe thinking a little bit slower, maybe not handling the situation the way that you wanted to handle it. And that's pain, that's fear, that's emotion, right? So these are the things that that we all struggle with. We all have issues with them, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say is, in the process of fear setting, it's like having that argument, but having it in your head before you've done it. So when you go to set the fear in your mind, what you've done is you've gone in and you said, okay, you know what? I can handle this already because I've already done it in my mind. The mind has already experienced it. The nervous system has already experienced it because you visualized it well enough that when you go in and experience it for real, you've already handled it. And this is something that I used to do when I would perform. Anytime I'd go into a performance, I would visualize the performance, and I'd visualize everything that could possibly go wrong. And I do the things that could possibly go wrong over and over and over again correctly in my brain. And I can tell you 9 times out of 10, the times that I did the visualization, the performance went better than the times that I didn't do the visualization, because my brain was clear around how it was going to function. So it's the same kind of thing when you guys are going out into life and you have fears. You need to figure out how much of an impact that fear would actually have if you were to experience it when doing that action. So let's say, for example, okay, here's one for me. I went out and was creating business relationships last week. Now, it was something that was new to me. It was something that I hadn't done in the past. It was a scary process. I sat there for 20 minutes thinking, how do I approach this business? Before I got on the phone with my wife, she said, just do it. And I said, okay. And I went in and I did it. But I had the fear in my head of, oh, what if they say no? And then I went in and the relationship went really well. Right? The people were like, oh, yeah, we can definitely help you out. We can definitely create this relationship. Right? And so my fear didn't come to fruition. But even if it had, I had already created this image in my head of if my worst fear of them rejecting me were to come to fruition, would it really matter? Would it really have an issue? Or could I just go next door to the next business and try and create the same process? Right? So if you're allowing your fears to stop you, if you're allowing your fears to hold you back, you need to figure out what they are, and you need to live them in your brain, and then you need to go out and do it. Right? And know that it won't be easier, but know that you will have already mentally handled it. So at least you're prepared for the worst. All right? Richard says, wow, now I need to work out what my fears actually are to help get rid of them. Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I think figuring out what your fears are is super important, but I don't think you need to get rid of your fears, because fear is important. You need to know, you need to have fears. They protect you to some extent. But you need to also be able to figure out whether they're controlling you or not. And I guess at the end of the day, what this really comes down to is, are you in control of your life? Are you in control of the choices you make? Or are you in a reactionary state? Are you fighting or are you fleeing? Right? Are you pushing forward? Are you challenging the fears? Are you saying, no, I'm not going to let this control me? Or are you allowing yourself to be in reaction constantly and constantly saying, oh, that's too much, I can't handle that? Right? So those are some tips for you guys. Those are the things that I use when I'm afraid. And it happens often. Interactions with people, for me, one of the toughest things. Like I'm not generally an outgoing person. I struggled with it for many years, and as a dancer, uh, you can kind of live in that space, right? You can be quiet all the time. Um, you can stand back and not have to interact with many people. You can just kind of be yourself in yourself and not have to put yourself out there. But as a coach, you can't do that. You have to be open to interacting with people. You have to be open to talking to people. You have to be open to creating relationships. And so for me, like in some ways, like I've decided to choose a career that embraces my greatest fear. Like I struggle with interacting with people. Um, Maybe you're watching this and thinking, no, you don't, you're great, but it's actually quite a challenge for me. So, these are things that, you guys are not alone. It's perfectly normal to have fears, but it's are you letting those fears control you, or are you controlling your fears, right? Just one more thing. Stacy said, my kids going out into the big world as adults, still years and years away. That is a big fear. And I think, even now, as myself as a father, my daughter's only 3.5, so we've got quite a long time before that happens. But uh, I think the only thing that you can really do is prepare your kids as well as possible. And in saying that, the best way to prepare them is to teach them how to be in control of their own lives, to teach them how to be in control of their own destiny, to teach them that their choices are their responsibility, and the results of what's happening in their life are the results of their choices. And when you are in control, and when you take that extreme ownership of who you are and what you're doing, eventually you will be successful. There's no way not to be. It is exactly that process. And if you can teach a child to think, if you can teach a child to make choices properly, if you can teach a child to own their choices, and if you can teach a child to be in control of where they're going in life, then you have nothing to be afraid of, because they will be massively successful and they will live an amazing life. So I just want to leave you guys on that. I appreciate you tuning in. 32 minutes. I appreciate it, guys. If you've enjoyed this and you've gotten something out of it, please share it. I guess, one of my greatest fears at this point is that I'm living in obscurity. No one knows who I am. No one's watching me, and I feel like I have a lot to say, and I have a lot that I do want to get out there. And I'm embracing my fears by putting it out there, because I do struggle with interaction. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. This was the first episode of Friday Feels, and I'll see you all soon. Hopefully next Friday. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.